Alright, so in today's lesson we are going to set up posts for our user that we can authenticate against, and then we're going to go over route groups, authenticating route groups, and a really cool way to refactor route groups and break up routes that are supposed to be grouped. So to start off with, we're going to need to open up our terminal, and we're going to need to run this command. PHP artisan make model, and then we're going to do dash resourceful controller RC. Then we're going to do migration factory. So we're creating a model, a resourceful controller, a migration, and a factory for a post. And of course, we also have to add our post name. So just like that. And we're going to kind of speed through this. So once that's created, the first thing we need to do is we need to add our post. So we're going to do protected fillable, and a post needs to have a title and content. Outside of that, a post also needs to belong to a user. And so we're going to return this belongs to a user class, just like that. Next, in our user, we need to tell the user and say, hey, you have many posts. A post or a user has many posts. So we're going to return this has many and then post class. Okay. The next thing we want to do is we want to go to our migrations. And in our migrations, you'll see this create posts table. And so the first thing we want to do is we want to say, okay, table has a string of title, a string column called title. Table has a text column called content. And table has a integer column, which is going to reference the ID on the user table. And that's going to be unsigned, which means it can never be negative. Behind the scenes elegant knows to map this to the user. After that, we want to go to our PostFactory, and we want to say, okay, we have our post, and whenever we create dummy post or faker post using our factory, we want to say, okay, the title is going to be a faker title, and the content, let's just make that faker, I don't know, sentence. Just like that. And so now, if we do one more command, PHP artisan make seeder, PostSeeder, we can now use our factories in our post database seeder. And so all we're going to do is we're going to use our user class and use our post class. And what we really want to do is we want to use this factory helper method, pass in our post class, create 10 posts for each user. And so whenever we create a post, it will do the title and the content for us, but we need to define that user ID. And what we really want to do is we want to say, okay, user ID. But we don't have a user ID right here. So what do? Well, we use our user factory, which is there by default. And we say, okay, user class, we want to create 10 users. And then for each user, what we want to do is we want to use the created user, and then with that created user, with each created user, you want to create a post where that post references the user ID that owns the post. So now we have our model, we have our factory, our seeder, and everything set up to fill our database. The last thing we want to do is we want to go to our PostController. We want to say, okay, posts equals post get, and then we want to return a view. We're going to say, okay, post.index, and we want to compact the posts. And so what this is going to say is we're going to return our blade template, and whenever we pass in this delimited string right here to our view, we're going to reference the resources views post directory /index.blade.php. We don't have a post directory, so we need to create it. So in our post directory, oh, we do have a post directory, my bad. I must have created that behind the scenes. Okay, sweet. So we already have this set up. So what this is doing, it's saying, okay, we have a container, and it's just the post, it's just whatever. Right? It looks like I copied the you are logged in home dashboard. I'll say blog posts. And then right below that, we are looping through each of our posts, and we are simply outputting the title and the content of the post. So now that we have our controller, model, factory, migration, and database seeder set up, we can seed our database. But we're forgetting something. Right here, we created the seeder, but we didn't pass that seeder to our database seeder. So what we need to do is we need to go to our database seeder, and we need to, you can just pass in the PostSeeder right here, and that will work, but you can also pass in an array of seeders. Most applications use several database seeders, so I'm going to just make an array off the bat. So now we have everything properly set up to create dummy data for our posts, and those posts are properly owned by users or belong to a user, and a user properly knows about all of the posts they have. So the first thing we need to do is we need to migrate our database. PHP Artisan migrate. Once we migrate, we need to actually run db seed. This will seed our database right here. When we run db seed, it calls the seeders we pass in to the database seeder run function this call. So now we can prove that we have users by just doing this, and we just opened up Tinker, PHP Artisan Tinker, which is just a REPL, R-E-P-L, for interacting with Laravel. And there's all of our users, and here's all of our posts, just like that. So we have 100 posts, and that means if we get our first user, and then we get the post for that user, we should get 10 posts. And if we get our first post, and then we get the user for that post, we should get 1 user. So we have properly set up our post dummy data. And the last thing we can do is if we go to, actually we forgot to add the route. So if we go to web.php, and then we just do route get /posts, and then we do PostController at index, and we'll just do name equals post.index. That should directly call back the PostController index method, which, I'm just deleting that comment so that warning goes away. It won't actually stop the application from running, it's just annoying. But that will return our blade template where we pass in all of our views, and then of course in that blade template we loop through all of our posts in the title and the content. So let's see if that worked. So let's go up here, let's go /post, and there we go. There are all of our posts. So the last thing I want to do on this setup part is for each of those, let's just add an HR, just a line. That way it looks a little bit better. Okay, there we go, a little space. Nothing too fancy, but now we have dummy data, we have posts. Okay, so what do we want to do next? And let's move that up there. What we want to do next is we want to authenticate our posts. You can only see the posts when you are logged in. So how do we do that? Let's go back to web.php, and let's just do route middleware equals auth. We're applying our auth middleware, and because at the very beginning of this tutorial we did Laravel new authorize --auth, this auth middleware is scaffolded into Laravel by default. So now we can only see that page if we are logged in. And if we're not logged in, it will redirect us to the login page. So now let's go back to our terminal, and let's see, let's just grab some random user, and this is the email address to log in. And then if we go to our user factory, notice that the password is this hashed or encrypted key, but in English it's just password. So the password is password. So there's the email. Here's our password. Again, just password. And we'll say remember them. There we go. And now we're redirected to our post page, and we can see it. But as an unauthenticated user, we cannot see our post page. It will redirect us to log in. And that is how you set up dummy data in Laravel. Now we're going to get on to route groups and authenticating groups of routes, and then a really unique way to authenticate a group of routes.
Simple